4 of Talks and Talk with Kurt. And in this episode, we're going to talk about Zearalenone. We're going to break down what exactly it is, some of the grains that we're seeing Zearalenone in, especially in the last couple of months right after harvest season here, and how it affects your barn performance, and then some strategies in terms of how to handle and deal and potentially mitigate some of the issues that surround the Zearalenone mycotoxin. So let's jump into it and let's talk about what exactly it is. So what exactly is Zearalenone? Zearalenone is actually a very unique mycotoxin in that it has this estrogenic effect and can affect the entire reproductive cycle. It has a little bit greater of an effect with swine versus poultry. When it comes to swine, recommendations are to try and keep it under 100 parts per billion in a complete feed diet situation for gilts and piglets. And when it comes to sows, to try and keep it under 250 parts per billion. We'll jump into a little bit later how it directly affects those females and how it affects the reproductive cycle. But let's move into what kind of grains that we're seeing Zearalenone show itself, especially in the last couple months after harvest here. So where can Zearalenone be found right now? Just in the last couple months, 2 feed grains that are consistently showing some concerning levels are corn and soy. Some of the numbers that I'm regularly seeing is over 100 parts per billion as an individual feed ingredient, so within that corn or soy. Of course, we have to look at percentage of diet as the complete feed, but in particular, corn and soy have been showing some concerning levels over 100 parts per billion. When it comes to some of the lower percentage of diet ingredients like DDGs, canola meal, sunflower meal, these are where I've been seeing a lot higher numbers actually, anywhere between 650 to 850 parts per billion. Again, here in Manitoba, and again, we also have to always look at percentage of diet as the complete feed. But when they are that high, even at 8 or 10% of your diet, it can start adding up. And if you are seeing issues, it's a good thing to take a look and get it tested. The other thing that's quite interesting about Zearalenone is it's typically known as a storage mycotoxin. So it likes to grow in a lower temperature setting versus a field mycotoxin growing out there on the field. So the numbers that I'm seeing today, those are typically field mycotoxin levels. Once we start moving into the winter months and we start going through the storage phase and the lower temperatures, we'll only know in the next couple months what some of those numbers are going to be in corn, soy, DDGs, sunflower meal, canola meal. So if you are seeing issues within the reproductive cycle of your animals, then feel free, give me a shout or talk to your nutritional consultant to potentially get your grains or your complete feed tested. So let's jump into what you can see or notice and how it affects barn performance within your animals. So Zearalenone, how it affects the animals and how it can potentially affect your barn performance. As a mycotoxin that has an estrogenic effect and how it affects the reproductive cycle, in particular, swine are more sensitive than poultry when it comes to Zearalenone, but how it affects the reproductive cycle, you can have issues and problems with conception, ovulation, you can have pseudo-pregnancies, you can have increased number of abortions, embryonic deaths. The initial fetal development can be inhibited, reduce litter weight. You'll see an enlargement of the mammary glands, swelling and reddening of the vulva, rectal, vaginal prolapses, reddening of the teats. You could have milk, a reduction in milk production. Long term, you could have an atrophy of the ovaries, and the uterus could go through like a hypertrophy effect. With piglets and gilts, you can see splay legs. So when you're looking at the importance of understanding and limiting zearalenone within that all your reproductive animals, it's incredibly important. And remember, the recommendations are around 100 parts, have it under 100 parts per billion for piglets and gilts, because they are the most susceptible to this mycotoxin, and 250 parts per billion or less for sows. If you're seeing any of these kinds of issues within the females and the reproductive animals, by all means give me a shout, and we can talk about it and potentially get your grains tested. So let's go jump into some of the ideas and thoughts in terms of how to mitigate these issues within your barn. So some thoughts and ideas if you are dealing with a potential zearalenone problem is, number one, get your grains tested. If the animals are telling you that there are certain issues within that reproductive cycle, get the grains tested. Even some of those lower percentage of diet grains, get those tested to kind of see where those numbers are coming in at. Because zearalenone is typically known as a storage mycotoxin, so it does like the cooler temperatures and will grow at a faster rate in a cooler environment. We're going into the winter season here. If you are seeing those issues or problems, get everything all tested out and see where you're sitting at for a number. It's always good to have a good level of antioxidant support to ensure that those internal organs that are having to process these mycotoxins are well supported, especially on a long-term capacity, because of when it comes to the sows and gilts, you want to keep them at their healthiest. The other option is a toxin binder. Just though ensure that the toxin binder, there's lots of them out there, that it can actually bind up effectively and efficiently zearalenone. So I hope though you like the zearalenone toxin talk, and if you have any questions, by all means reach out to me either through email or give me a shout, text me, and I'd be happy to help you out in any way you can. So thanks again, and keep those questions coming. Really enjoy them, and we'll see you later. Bye now.